The dish soap bubbles clung to my hands as I scrubbed Ruth's favorite coffee mug for the third time that week. The same mug, the same single plate, the same fork. Every evening in my quiet Wichita kitchen played out like a ritual I couldn't abandon. The house still carried her humming while she cooked. Her scolding about leaving the newspaper open on the table. Her laughter echoing down the hallway long after she was gone. The refrigerator hummed its steady tune, decorated with fading photos. Ruth in her garden, me holding a fishing rod, and one that always stopped my heart. Our son Tyler, 17, grinning in his high school graduation gown. Before the business, before the arguments, before the silence, the phone rang suddenly, slicing through the stillness. I froze, dish towel half folded in my hand. The wall-mounted receiver blinked an unfamiliar glow, one that used to mean good news. I wiped my palms and lifted it, half expecting another telemarketer. But the name on the tiny screen nearly made me drop the phone. Tyler Bennett. For a moment I couldn't breathe. A year had passed since we'd spoken. The last time, he'd stormed out of my restaurant after I refused to co-sign another can't-miss investment. I'd told him, "Son, debts don't disappear with faith alone." He'd shouted that I didn't understand modern business. We hadn't talked since. "Dad?" The voice on the line was softer than I remembered, hesitant, almost childlike. "It's me." I swallowed hard. "Tyler?" "Yeah, I know it's been too long." He hesitated, a breath full of things unsaid. "Sloan and I have been talking. We miss you. We were wrong to cut you off." I sat slowly into Ruth's old rocking chair, its wooden creak filling the silence between us. "How are you, son?" "I'm good," he said quickly, too quickly. "Actually, we'd really like you to come for dinner tonight. Sloan's making your favorite pot roast with red potatoes. We just want to talk. To start over." I stared at the graduation photo still pinned to the fridge with a cracked sunflower magnet. Ruth used to say, "Families break, but they can mend if someone has the courage to pick up the needle." "Dinner? Tonight?" I asked carefully. "Yes, sir. 7:30. We moved out to Mission Hills last spring. I'll text you the address. Please come, Dad. We've wasted enough time." Mission Hills. The name itself sounded like wealth far from my modest neighborhood and modest life, but his tone pulled at something inside me. Something hopeful I hadn't felt in years. Maybe Ruth was right. Maybe families really did find their way back. "I'll be there," I said quietly. "Thank you, Tyler." After I hung up, I sat in the fading daylight, holding Ruth's photo in my trembling hands. She smiled from behind the glass, as if whispering, "It's time to come home." Upstairs, I opened the closet and reached past worn work shirts until my fingers brushed the navy suit she'd bought me 20 years ago for Tyler's graduation. "You'll need something nice for important days," she'd said. "And anything with family is important." The suit still fit, though a little looser now. I polished my old shoes, found a burgundy tie Ruth had always liked, and dabbed a little aftershave she used to tease me for. When I looked in the mirror, an aging man stared back, hair silvered, eyes tired, but hopeful. From the cabinet, I selected a bottle of single-barrel bourbon aged 12 years, saved for special occasions. A peace offering, maybe. Something to bridge the silence. My phone buzzed with a message. "Tyler, 247 Maplewood Drive, Mission Hills. Can't wait to see you, Dad." Outside, the Kansas twilight glowed soft and gold. As my Uber pulled away from the curb, I caught my reflection in the window. Part fear, part faith. I whispered to Ruth's picture in my pocket. "Maybe tonight, we'll be a family again." He couldn't know that in a few short hours, a single text message would shatter that fragile hope forever. The Uber slipped past stone gates and clipped hedges as twilight turned blue. 247 Maplewood Drive waited at the end of a circular drive slate roof, limestone face, windows glowing in tidy squares. I paid the fare and stepped out, the single-barrel bourbon tucked under my arm like a peace flag. Before I touched the bell, the door opened. A woman in a black dress stood there, mid-40s, hair pulled back, kindness edged with fatigue. "Good evening, sir. I'm Anna." Her smile held, but a shadow crossed it when her eyes flicked to the bottle. "Mr. Bennett is expecting you." "Thank you," I said, stepping into a foyer so polished I checked my soles for dust. The air smelled of fresh paint and candles. Art lined the walls, tasteful, impersonal. "Dad!" Tyler's voice burst from down the hall. He hugged me hard, a beat too long. Thinner now, handsome in a narrow suit. "You look great." "So do you," I said, meaning it and not. Through glass doors, a home office showed a rental desk, a new shredder, and a gray file box with a chrome lock. Sloane glided in silk and pearls. "Jonathan, you made it." She kissed the air by my cheek. "We're so happy you're here." "Anna? The coat?" The housekeeper lifted it away. "I brought something for the table," I said, passing the bourbon to Tyler. His face lit like I'd handed him the moon. "Single barrel?" "Dad, perfect. Let's start with a real toast." He led us into a dining room that could have seated 12. The table was set for 3, with bone, china, crystal, and silver. White amaryllis filled a low centerpiece. "I made pot roast with red potatoes," Sloane said. "Ruth's recipe from the church cookbook you mentioned." "That was years ago," I said softly. "Ruth swore the secret was patience." "Then we did it right," Sloane answered. Tyler eased the cork loose. He poured heavy into my glass, light into his, none into Sloane's. "To family," he said. "To family," we echoed. Anna moved in quiet rhythms, setting down tiny toasts, then a tidy salad. Her hands trembled once when she placed my plate. She looked away. Conversation began broad and narrowed. Sloane asked about the restaurants, the magic of scaling culture, and where the bottlenecks lived. Tyler laughed at old stories but kept checking his watch. "How many locations now, Dad?" 7, I said. 8 if the Derby lease closes. "Impressive," Sloane said. "Do you have emergency signatories? Health proxies? In case of the unexpected?" "Ruth and I planned what we could," I answered, feeling the room lean toward some unseen point. Tyler touched my shoulder. "We just want to be sure you're protected." "Of course," Sloane added. "After dinner, we can show you a checklist we put together. Just practical stuff. Peace of mind." Through the glass doors, the office light clicked on, then off. Paper slid. The quick cough of a shredder stuttered and stopped. Tyler cleared his throat. "Anna?" She returned with bowls steaming. When she set mine down, her lips barely moved. "Careful." Then her face reset, and she was gone. The bourbon warmed my chest. The room was beautiful and slightly off, as if every frame hung a fraction crooked. Tyler kept the bottle near my elbow. Sloane steered the talk back to policies and signatories, to succession and continuity. I smiled, answered, sidestepped where I could, and tried not to notice how the evening kept arranging itself around that gray locked box behind the glass. The second glass of bourbon hit harder than it should have. I wasn't a lightweight, but warmth climbed my neck and settled behind my eyes. My thoughts moved slower, like they were wading through syrup. I brushed it off: rich food, strong drink, too little company for too long. Tyler leaned back, grin easy, voice too rehearsed. "You remember when you first opened the diner in Wichita? I was 8. You'd come home smelling like coffee and bacon." I smiled faintly. "Those were good years. They could be again." He said quickly, "You've worked hard your whole life, Dad. Maybe it's time to relax. Travel. Let someone else handle the business side." Sloane dabbed her lips with a linen napkin, her tone perfectly light. "Tyler means we worry about you. Running restaurants is stressful, especially at your age. You deserve to enjoy the rewards." "I enjoy the work," I said. "Keeps me breathing." "Sure," Tyler said, refilling my glass without asking. "But say something happened unexpectedly. Would anyone even know where the accounts are? The passwords? The property deeds?" The words sank through the whiskey fog, unsettling something deep inside me. "What are you asking?" Sloane's voice smoothed over his. "Just planning. Every responsible person needs to outline a transition. Health directives, powers of attorney, that kind of thing. I chuckled softly, though my throat felt tight. You two sound like lawyers. Tyler laughed a little too loud. Maybe we've just grown up. Anna entered to clear plates, eyes lowered. When she leaned near to reach my fork, she whispered so low I almost missed it. Don't drink more. Then she vanished before I could react. I stared at the amber liquid swirling in my glass. Tyler caught the hesitation and leaned forward, concern painted on. Dad? Something wrong? Just thinking, I said slowly. About Ruth. She'd love to see us sitting together like this. Sloane smiled, a polished, brittle thing. We wanted tonight to be special, to remember her. Tyler clinked my glass. To Mom. He drank. I only pretended to. The warmth behind my eyes spread into a faint pressure. I placed my hand on the table to steady myself. The chandelier light above shimmered slightly too bright, the shadows around the room bending. So, Sloane said softly, tell us more about the Wichita branch. That property must be worth a fortune by now. Her casual tone had teeth. I met her gaze. I suppose. The land's appreciated, but I don't check the value every day. Smart, she said. Still, it's good to document everything. For legal purposes. She smiled again, almost tenderly. In fact, we had a notary friend stop by earlier, Felix Crane. He's happy to review forms if you want. Tyler added quickly. Just to help, Dad. No pressure. I exhaled slowly. You two really thought this through. Because we care, Sloane said. We lost your wife too soon. We'd never forgive ourselves if something happened to you and we weren't prepared. Their voices tangled like a script rehearsed too many times. Something sharp whispered at the back of my mind. I shifted in my chair and caught a detail I'd missed before. On the sideboard behind them sat a folder embossed with my restaurant's logo. It shouldn't have been here. Copies of documents I'd left locked in my office safe. How did you get those? I asked, keeping my voice even. Tyler froze for half a second. What? Oh, that? Old marketing stuff you gave me ages ago. I hadn't. My fingers tightened around the napkin. Anna reappeared with dessert plates. Her eyes flicked toward the sideboard, then back to me. Fear moved like a signal between us. She mouthed a single word before slipping away. Run. The air thickened. The edges of the room pulsed faintly, as if the chandelier light had a heartbeat. I forced a smile. Excuse me, I said quietly. Bathroom. Sloane stood halfway, her hand brushing my shoulder. Of course, Jonathan. Second door on the left. Her perfume filled my lungs, sweet, cloying, suffocating. As I turned toward the hallway, my hand brushed the bourbon glass once more. The faintest shimmer of dust floated on its surface, invisible until the light caught it. Whatever it wasn't just whiskey. The hallway stretched long and silent, lit by low sconces that threw warm light on glossy hardwood. My footsteps echoed softly. Behind me, I heard the muted clink of silverware, Sloane's voice a faint melody of control. The second door on the left stood ajar. I pushed it open, not the bathroom, but a small powder room with marble counters and a vase of lilies too perfect to be real. I leaned on the sink, breathing slow, waiting for my pulse to settle. The mirror showed a man trying to convince himself everything was fine. I splashed cold water on my face. The bourbon's haze had thickened into something stranger, heavier, slower. My head swam as though gravity itself had shifted. That's when my phone buzzed. I fished it out of my jacket pocket, blinking against the bright screen. A local Kansas number. Unknown. One line glared back in bold letters. Get up and leave. The words froze me. My first thought, some cruel prank. My second, someone knew exactly where I was. The phone vibrated again. You have less than 5 minutes. The drink wasn't just whiskey. My stomach dropped. The dizziness, the warmth behind my eyes, it wasn't in my head. I locked the door, lowering the toilet lid to sit before my legs gave out. My hands trembled so violently the screen nearly slipped from my grip. Who could possibly know? I typed back, "Who is this?" No reply. Outside, a soft knock. Sloane's voice, sugary, smooth. "Jonathan? You okay in there?" I swallowed. "Fine. Just a minute." My heart hammered. I had two choices. Stay and pretend, or listen to the unseen voice that somehow knew the truth. I glanced at the small window above the sink. Frost crusted the glass, but it was large enough to slip through if I climbed carefully. My joints protested, but adrenaline gave me new strength. The latch squeaked as I turned it. The cold Kansas night rushed in. From the hall, Sloane called again, sharper this time. "Jonathan?" I whispered. "Sorry, Ruth," and eased myself through the window, landing awkwardly in a bed of dormant shrubs. The cold bit through my suit, but the shock cleared my head. I crouched low and moved along the side of the house. Through the dining room window, I saw Tyler pacing. Sloane stood near the table, holding my glass. She sniffed it, frowned, and poured the contents down the sink. Then she said something I couldn't hear, and Tyler nodded, running a hand through his hair. They were expecting me to come back. My phone buzzed once more. "Go to the back gate, left side." A motion light snapped on as I crossed the yard. My breath came out in white plumes. Somewhere, a dog barked. At the far end of the lawn, an iron gate stood slightly ajar. Beyond it, a quiet residential street stretched empty under street lamps. As I slipped through, my phone rang. The same number. Against every instinct, I answered. A calm voice, low and precise. "Mr. Bennett, please listen carefully. You were given a compound called NeuroLethX-D. It makes alcohol 5 times stronger and suppresses inhibition. Within the hour, you'd have signed everything they placed in front of you." My mouth went dry. "Who are you?" "Someone who works in that house," the voice said. "Someone who saw the papers on the table. The notary is coming soon. They intend to transfer your company, your properties, everything." I looked back at the glowing windows of the mansion, where the silhouettes of my son and his wife moved briskly, preparing something unseen. "Why help me?" I asked. The voice paused. "Because you don't deserve what's about to happen. And because I couldn't live with myself if I stayed silent." The line clicked off. I stood there, the Kansas cold burning my lungs, the taste of betrayal thick in my throat. Somewhere inside that house, my son was preparing to steal the life his mother and I had built from nothing. And I was just getting started. The Uber arrived in less than 5 minutes, a silver sedan sliding up the quiet street like salvation disguised as a rideshare. I climbed into the back seat, slamming the door behind me, my breath still clouding in the frigid Kansas air. The driver, a middle-aged man in a Royals cap, glanced at me in the mirror. "Cold night, huh?" "Yeah," I said, forcing calm. "Just drive toward Wichita. I'll change the address soon." As we pulled away from the glowing mansion, my phone buzzed again. I didn't recognize the number, same area code, different last digits. The same calm voice answered before I could speak. "Mr. Bennett, it's me. You're safe for now." "Who are you?" I demanded. "You said you worked in that house. Are you Anna?" Silence for a beat. Then, "But Anna knows. She's not part of it. Listen carefully. Your son owes $2.1 million to a group called the Rivergate Crew. They collect debt with knives and concrete." The words hit harder than the cold. "That's impossible," I said, but my voice cracked. "He's my son. He has a house, a business, all borrowed. The mansion's a short-term lease, the furniture's rented, the luxury cars leased under false names. He borrowed against everything to pay off one round of debt, then lost it again." I leaned forward, gripping the headrest in front of me. The driver's eyes flicked nervously to the mirror, probably reading the fear in mine. "Who are you, really?" I whispered. "You don't need my name," the caller said evenly. "You need the truth. The bottle you brought the bourbon was spiked this morning. They plan to use it to cloud your memory. The drug is called NeuroLethX-D. With it in your system, they could convince you to sign anything: power of attorney, business transfer, even your house deed." My stomach turned. They'd never They would, the voice cut in. The documents are already printed. I saw them. Felix Crane, he calls himself a notary, arrived an hour before you did. He's Sloane's financial partner. She handled the paperwork, while Tyler handled you. I closed my eyes, flashes of the evening hitting me like waves. Sloane's soft voice urging me to relax. Tyler refilling my glass without asking. Anna's whisper. Don't drink more. The car turned onto the interstate. City lights blurred across the window like streaks of gold. They would have waited until you were dizzy, the caller continued. Then slid the papers across the table. You'd sign, believing it was just some family trust update. By morning, every asset tied to your name would belong to them. Why are you helping me? I asked quietly, a sigh through static. Because what they're doing isn't desperation, it's cruelty. And I've seen enough of that in my life. I looked out the window at the dark Kansas plains stretching endlessly beneath a bruised sky. The stars above looked close enough to touch, and every one of them felt like judgment. What should I do? You have to report it now. Before they destroy evidence, they'll notice you're gone any minute. I hesitated, Ruth's voice echoing in my memory her quiet strength. Her way of saying, do the hard thing, even when it hurts. Will you testify? I asked. I can't, the voice said. Not without risking everything. But if you call the police, mention the name Felix Crane and the drug. They'll understand. The line went dead. The Uber driver cleared his throat. You okay back there, sir? Not really, I admitted. Change of plan. We're heading back to Mission Hills. He blinked in the mirror. That the place you just came from? Yes, but this time, I'm not walking in alone. I opened my contacts and dialed 911. Johnson County Dispatch, came a steady female voice. What's your emergency? My family is attempting to poison me for money, I said, every word tasting like disbelief. I escaped. I have the location and the evidence. The dispatcher's tone didn't waver. Are you in immediate danger? No, but they're still there. They have a forged power of attorney, and the notary might still be on site. 247 Maplewood Drive, Mission Hills. We're dispatching units now, she said. Estimated arrival in 20 minutes. Please, stay somewhere safe. I hesitated, looking down at Ruth's faded Polaroid in my wallet. No, I said quietly. I'm going back. I'll be the witness. Sir, I strongly advise, but I'd already hung up. The driver shook his head. You sure about this? Not at all, I said, voice steady. But I've spent too many years running from what I should have faced. Tonight, that stops. The sedan turned off the main road and back toward the glittering sprawl of Mission Hills. Each mile we drove back felt heavier than the last, like heading toward a storm you can't outrun. When the mansion came into view, the lights inside burned brighter than before, every window glowing like an accusation. And for the first time in years, I wasn't afraid of the truth. I was ready to face it head on. The Uber idled half a block from the mansion, its engine purring low against the quiet suburban night. Police sirens were still distant faint wails, somewhere far beyond the neighborhood hills. I told the driver to wait around the corner and keep the car running. Sir, he said carefully, you really want to walk back in there alone? No one ever wins by hiding, I murmured, opening the door. The winter air cut sharp against my face. If the officers arrive and I'm not out in 20 minutes, drive away. The gate creaked as I pushed it open. The mansion stood luminous and cold, its windows glowing like watchful eyes. I forced my legs forward. The bourbon fog had almost burned off, replaced by something cleaner resolve. When I reached the door, I hesitated for one heartbeat, then rang the bell. The sound echoed deep inside, muffled by thick walls and expensive rugs. The door swung open too fast. Dad. Tyler's voice carried forced relief. We were worried sick. You just disappeared. His hair was mussed, his smile cracked at the edges. Behind him, Sloane hovered in the hallway, her perfect posture faltering. Jonathan, she said softly. You scared us. Are you all right? I just needed air, I said, letting my voice wobble like a tired old man. All that rich food, it hit harder than I expected. Tyler laughed too quickly. See? We told you to pace yourself. Come back inside, sit down. Let's finish the evening properly. I stepped in. The air smelled of lemon polish and fear. My shoes squeaked faintly on the marble as I crossed the foyer. The dining room table had been half cleared, the crystal glasses gone. A stack of documents rested neatly near my chair, paper edges aligned with eerie precision. Don't worry, Sloane said, seeing my gaze. We just tidied up a little. You don't want Maria cleaning this late. I smiled faintly. Thoughtful as always. Maria wasn't in sight. The house was too quiet. Tyler gestured to the head of the table. Sit, Dad. Let's pick up where we left off. I took my seat, slow and deliberate. Of course. You know, it's funny, I said lightly. While I was outside, I remembered something your mother always said. Sloane's eyes flicked to Tyler's, a silent question. She used to tell me, I continued, that truth has a way of walking through locked doors. They froze for a fraction of a second, so brief it could have been missed. But I saw it. The slight stiffening of shoulders, the twitch at the corner of Sloane's mouth. Anyway, I said, reaching for the pitcher of water. Let's toast properly this time. With something that doesn't make me dizzy. Sloane's smile was brittle. Of course, she poured. Her hands shook slightly as the water splashed. Tyler reached into his jacket pocket, pulling out a sleek silver pen. Before we eat dessert, he said casually, I just remembered Sloane and I prepared some documents you might want to review. Nothing major. Just making sure the business is protected if, you know, anything ever happens. He slid the papers across the table. I didn't look at them yet. You two really plan ahead, I said evenly. Mind if I take a quick glance before signing? Of course not, Sloane said too fast. We even have a notary here tonight just to make it official. A knock sounded at the side door. My pulse jumped. Tyler brightened. That'll be him now. Felix. Felix Crane entered wearing a tailored overcoat, briefcase in hand, smile smooth as marble. Mr. Bennett, he said warmly. An honor. I handle family estate adjustments all the time. Only takes a few signatures. He placed a small black folder on the table, clicking it open to reveal a portable notary seal and a pre-filled form with my name typed in bold. That's efficient, I said. Mind if I ask how you spelled my wife's name? Felix blinked. Excuse me? Ruth, her name. You included her on the documents, didn't you? Of course, he stammered, flipping through pages. Then spell it, I said softly. He hesitated. Ruth, he muttered. Good, I said, leaning back. Because I remember her handwriting better than anyone's. And these signatures? I tapped the page. Aren't hers. Tyler went pale. Dad, what are you talking about? I smiled thinly. You really should have hired a better forger. Sloane stood up abruptly. This is ridiculous. Felix. Tell him, but her words were drowned by the distant growl of approaching engines, multiple, low and steady. Flashing red and blue lights spilled faintly through the frosted window panes. Tyler's head whipped toward the sound. What did you do? He hissed. What I should have done years ago, I said quietly. Tell the truth. Tell the truth. Outside, the police cruisers stopped in perfect synchrony, their radios crackling to life. And inside, time finally ran out. 3 sharp knocks thundered through the mansion's silence. Not frantic, not polite, authoritative. Mission Hills Police Department, a voice called out. Open the door. The color drained from Tyler's face. His mouth opened, closed, then opened again. Dad, what did you... I didn't move. You should answer, I said quietly. Sloane spun toward the hallway, her voice brittle. There must be a mistake. Felix's hand shot out, gripping her arm. Don't, he hissed. Stay calm, let me handle this. The doorbell rang again this time, followed by the unmistakable rhythm of knuckles against wood. Open up. Felix straightened his tie and strode toward the foyer with an oily confidence. Tyler trailed behind, steps uneven. I rose from the table but stayed where the chandelier light could catch my face. I wanted them to see me standing when the truth arrived. Through the wide archway, I saw the front door open. 2 officers stepped inside, one tall and stone-faced, the other younger but steady. Their presence filled the space like a gust of cold wind. "Evening," the lead officer said. "We received a report of a possible poisoning and ongoing fraud attempt at this address." Felix chuckled. "Officer, I think someone's made a mistake. This is a private family dinner." The officer's gaze flicked to me. "Mr. Bennett?" "Yes," I said, voice steady. "I made the call." Felix turned slowly, his face stretched into a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "This is absurd. You're confused, sir. You had too much to drink." The younger officer held up a gloved hand. "Sir, we'll be the judge of that." He scanned the table, his eyes catching on the glass near my chair. "That yours?" "Yes." "Don't touch it," he said firmly. He reached into his vest pocket, pulled out an evidence bag, and slid the glass inside. The faint golden residue swirled at the bottom proof, glinting under the chandelier's glow. Sloane's voice cracked. "Wait, this is a misunderstanding. Jonathan wasn't feeling well. We were helping him." The older officer cut her off. "Ma'am, please take a seat." Felix's calm broke first. His hands twitched as he tried to close his briefcase, but the younger officer intercepted him. Inside, the papers lay perfectly arranged: durable power of attorney, asset transfer, property deed, all with my signature printed neatly at the bottom line, waiting to be forged. The older officer whistled low. "You've got yourself a full estate set up here." "That's confidential legal work," Felix barked. "Not when the intended signee calls in a poisoning," the officer replied evenly. He turned toward the door. "Detective, we've got multiple documents here. Looks like intent to defraud." Tyler slumped into a chair, face ashen. "Dad, please, this isn't what it looks like." I was desperate. "You don't understand." I looked at him, my son, grown but hollowed out by greed and fear. "You're right, Tyler. I don't understand how the boy who used to sell lemonade on our front lawn turned into someone who'd drug his own father." Sloane's composure shattered. "It wasn't supposed to go this far," she cried. "Felix promised no one would get hurt." Felix snarled. "Shut up, Sloane." The room exploded in motion. The officers closed in, the younger one seizing Felix's wrists as handcuffs snapped tight. Sloane stumbled back, sobbing. Tyler remained frozen, his lips trembling, eyes locked on mine. "Rick Bennett," the senior officer began, glancing at his notes. "Tyler," I corrected quietly. "Tyler Bennett," the officer continued. "You're under arrest for attempted poisoning, conspiracy to commit fraud, and elder exploitation. You have the right to remain silent." Tyler shot up from his chair, voice cracking. "You don't get it. I was supposed to pay them tomorrow. The Rivergate crew, if I didn't give them the money. They said they'd—" The officer's tone didn't change. "You can explain that downtown." Felix twisted in his cuffs. "You don't know who you're dealing with," the older officer smirked. "Try me." As they marched him toward the door, a new voice echoed from the back hallway. "He's telling the truth," it said softly. We all turned. It was Dylan Ridge, Sloane's younger brother, the same man who had texted me. He stepped forward, hands raised, guilt etched into every line of his face. "I called him," Dylan admitted, nodding toward me. "I sent the texts. I knew what they were planning. Felix told me if I kept quiet, he'd pay off my loans too." Sloane gasped. "Dylan, you idiot." "But I couldn't," Dylan said, voice breaking. "I couldn't watch you poison him." The officers exchanged looks. The younger one spoke first. "Thank you, son. We'll need a full statement." "Trauma." Sloane's sobs grew hysterical. "You ruined everything." "No," Dylan said, staring at her with hollow eyes. "You did." The officers led them all out, the sound of cuffs, boots, and broken dreams, echoing against marble and glass. When the door finally closed behind them, silence fell like dust. I stood alone in the dining room, staring at the golden residue that had almost ended me. Through the window, red and blue lights pulsed softly against the Kansas night. washing the walls in truth. And somewhere deep inside, Ruth's voice whispered, "You did the right thing, even when it hurt." The police station smelled faintly of burnt coffee and cold paperwork. It was past midnight when I stepped through the glass doors of the Johnson County substation. My reflection in the window looked older than it had that morning, shoulders lower, eyes hollow but clear. Detective Elena Hart met me with a firm handshake. "Mr. Bennett? Thank you for coming in. We'll need a full statement." Her calm voice steadied me. I followed her down a narrow hallway lined with corkboards and wanted posters until we reached an interview room plain table, 2 metal chairs, and a humming ceiling light that seemed louder than it should have been. On the other side of a reinforced window, I could see Tyler sitting in a holding cell. His head was bowed, hands clasped tightly between his knees. Across the hall, Sloane sat separately, mascara streaking down her cheeks, her perfect facade collapsing. Felix Crane was nowhere to be seen. Detective Hart later told me he was already with federal agents, cooperating in exchange for leniency. "Start from the beginning," she said, setting a recorder on the table. So I did. Every word. The phone call, the dinner, Anna's trembling warning, the text message, the escape, the voice on the line. Hart took notes with quick precision, her pen scratching against the paper like a metronome. When I finished, she leaned back. "You realize, Mr. Bennett, your decision to go back inside probably saved the investigation. If you'd just left, we'd have no physical evidence." "I wasn't brave," I said quietly. She nodded once. "The glass will confirm traces of Neurolith XD. We've seen it used before in financial coercion cases. Expensive, imported, very deliberate. What happens to them now?" Felix Crane is looking at multiple counts of fraud, forgery, and attempted poisoning. Sloane's likely facing conspiracy and accessory charges. As for your son..." She hesitated, compassion flickering briefly in her eyes. "With the financial exploitation and attempted poisoning combined, he could be looking at 15 to 20 years. I glanced toward the holding cells again. Tyler lifted his head just enough to meet my eyes. For a fleeting second, I saw the boy he'd been, the one who used to run barefoot through Ruth's garden, laughing as the sprinklers hit him. Then the man returned. Hollow. Desperate. Unreachable. Detective Hart's voice softened. "You'll need to work with our prosecutors and provide testimony when the trial begins. Are you comfortable doing that?" "Yes," I said. "I owe that much to Ruth, and to the people he might have hurt next." Through the glass, Anna appeared, escorted by another officer. She looked smaller without her black uniform, hair pulled back neatly, eyes rimmed with exhaustion. When she saw me, her lips parted in relief. "Mr. Bennett," she said softly. "They told me you're safe." "Thanks to you," I said. She shook her head. "No, sir. It was Dylan who sent the text. I only told him what I'd overheard." Hart stepped in. "We've confirmed that." Anna recorded an audio memo on her phone the day before the dinner. It captured Felix and Sloane discussing the dosage and timing. "That recording will be crucial in court." Anna's hands trembled as she spoke. "I just couldn't stay quiet. They talked about you like you weren't even a person." "You did the right thing," I said gently. "Even when it cost you." A faint, tired smile crossed her face. "That's what my father used to say." Detective Hart closed her notebook. "Mr. Bennett, we'll handle things from here. You can go home now. Get some rest." Home. The word felt foreign. As I left the station, the first blush of dawn painted the Kansas sky pale gold. The streets were empty, still wet from an unseen rain. For the first time in years, I breathed without fear, though the air still carried the ache of loss. Behind me, doors locked and keys turned. Ahead of me waited the long road back to Wichita and the fragile beginning of something that almost didn't survive the night. By the time I reached Wichita, the morning sun had burned through the mist. My house looked smaller somehow, humbler, but safe, every crack in the porch familiar, every creak in the floor honest. I set my keys down, exhaled, and for the first time in years, the silence didn't feel like punishment. The phone rang less than an hour later. Detective Hart. "Mr. Bennett, I wanted to update you. All suspects have been processed." Felix Crane's facing federal charges after we linked him to 3 similar elder fraud cases in Missouri and Oklahoma. Sloan Ridge Bennett is cooperating. She's already given up their financial trails and digital records. It's ugly, but it'll make prosecution easier. And my son? I asked quietly. A pause. Tyler's in holding. His public defender filed for a plea attempted poisoning and financial exploitation. He'll likely serve between 12 and 15 years. He mentioned the Rivergate crew, but the FBI's already tracking that lead. You're not in danger anymore. Not in danger, but not whole either. I thanked her and hung up. That afternoon, I drove to the Bennett Prairie Kitchen's headquarters, my first visit since stepping back from operations months earlier. The smell of coffee and bread hit me like a memory of Ruth. My manager, Mara Quinn, met me at the door, surprise softening into concern. "Howard," she said, "you look like you've been through a war." "In a way I have," I said. "But I came back to build something new." I told her everything carefully, fact by fact. Her eyes widened, then steadied. "You did the right thing," she said. "Now what?" "Now," I replied, "we rebuild the right way with people who value decency over ambition." Later that week, I met Ana Morales at a quiet cafe downtown. She looked nervous, clutching a folded piece of paper, her termination letter from the Miller's property management company. "You saved my life," I said. "The least I can do is offer you something better." She blinked. "I don't understand. I need someone I can trust. Someone who listens when things don't sound right." I slid an envelope across the table. Inside a formal offer letter. Operations coordinator, starting salary $60,000, benefits, training, profit share after a year. You'll report directly to me. Her eyes filled instantly. "Mr. Bennett, I don't have a degree. I've only cleaned houses my whole life." I smiled. "Then you already know how to notice what others overlook. That's management in its purest form." Anna pressed the letter to her chest. "You really mean it?" "I do," I said. "And call me Howard." When she left, I sat for a long time watching people move along. Douglas Avenue, students, workers, parents, all of them carrying private battles no one could see. Ruth used to say, that night, I walked through the empty dining room of my first restaurant. The tables gleamed under warm lights. I thought of the betrayal, the lies, the fear, and realized I hadn't lost everything. I'd lost illusions, but I'd gained clarity and a second chance to lead with honor. 2 months later, the first Ruth's Table community program opened in downtown Wichita. The sign above the door was simple white oak lettering against red brick, a hand-painted motto underneath. "Where honesty feeds everyone." Inside, volunteers in aprons served hot meals to families, single parents, veterans. The air buzzed with laughter, clinking dishes. The kind of noise that meant life was still good somewhere. I stood near the counter, watching Anna teach a young employee how to set a table properly, knife edges inward, napkin fold clean. She looked confident now, a woman who'd found her place. When she caught my eye, she smiled. The same quiet courage shining there that had saved me that night. Across the room hung a framed Polaroid of Ruth, taken in our backyard years ago. Her hands were covered in flour, sunlight in her hair, joy on her face. Beneath the photo, I'd written her favorite saying, "Truth is never cruel. It's just unafraid." As I adjusted the frame, I thought about the cost of that truth. About Tyler sitting in a cell, Sloan testifying in exchange for leniency, Felix Crane's name now a headline. Justice had been served, but no one really won. Still, sometimes doing the right thing doesn't feel like victory, it just feels necessary. Later that evening, the cafe grew quiet. I poured myself a cup of black coffee, the same kind Ruth used to make at dawn, and sat by the window as the Kansas sun dipped behind grain silos. For years I'd chased peace through success, through work, through control. I didn't realize peace had always been simpler. A clear conscience, a steady heart, the will to protect what's good, even when it hurts. I glanced down at my hands, older, lined, steady again. When I looked back up, I swore for a moment I could see her reflection in the glass beside me, smiling that same patient smile. "Ruth's Table," I whispered, raising my cup. We made it, love. Outside, the sign flickered softly in the night wind, the light steady and warm. Because in the end, life isn't about what's taken, it's about what we choose to rebuild. And I chose truth. Always.